Today's News Talk, The Pulse.
Well, hello and welcome to the Andrew
Blinds,
Show.
everyone.
The truth cuts deep, the gloves are off, and no one escapes untested. Today we've got Charlie Mullins, plumber turned £145 million tycoon turned Reform UK warrior. From fixing pipes to fighting Labour, he's here to unpack his wildlife, his no BS take on work, and why he's teamed up with Nigel Farage to shake Britain to its core. With Reform in the headlines, youth love, party strife, and teachers' union fuming. Expect heat, heart, and a few bombshells. Charlie Mullins is in the hot seat. Welcome, Charlie.
Good morning, Andrew.
It's always a joy. Well, a very warm welcome. You've gone from working class plumber to 145 million tycoon and now a Reform UK candidate. News that you broke right here on the Andrew Eborn Show. What's the one gritty moment from your early days that you think toughened you up for the wild ride of business and politics?
Just repeat that question again.
Yeah, what do you think? What was the one gritty moment from your early days? We've spoken about this beforehand, that you think toughened you up to be this wild ride of business and politics?
Okay, that's probably a very simple one. Is good work ethics. I started working when I was about 9 years of age, bunking off school, helping plumber, doing loads of jobs, and I think the seeds were sown then to actually, get into a life that, if you work, you can be successful. So undoubtedly, my work ethics coming from when I was a young child.
Yeah, I mean, and you've sold Pimlico Plumbers. It must have been quite a bit of heartache. We've talked about the regret that you felt in the past. It must have been a high, however, in terms of at least getting income. I've had a chat with a number of Nigel Farage's circle, like Ben Habib, and dig into personal trade-offs, if you like. Did you ever have to choose between family and ambition to get there? And how did you wrestle with that?
Yeah, look, undoubtedly, I think anybody that's successful coming from nothing, then there's certain casualties on the way. It may be your health, it may be your finances, maybe your marriages, maybe family, maybe friends, but undoubtedly something will go on the way. And I've probably done all of them things. You have a couple of health scares where the stress gets to you, a couple of divorces, financial problems where I nearly went bust once and lost my house. You fall out with a few friends or so-called friends. Family's been okay. They've stuck with me and made it a success. So there is ups and downs on getting somewhere, successful. But the end result is, yes, it's worth it. There's no business like your own business.
No, you're absolutely. I mean, we again sort of dealing with pressure, and everybody has different pressures. People say we're in the same boat. We're not in the same boat. We're all on the same ocean, but just in different boats. What recommendations would you give to people about coping with pressure?
Well, I'm thinking about that because obviously I don't want to misguide anybody, and obviously I'm not, don't have medical sort of training to say that. But I think first thing, if you are under a lot of pressure, go and get checked out and make sure that, you're in a position to carry on. I'm going to be honest there. You want to make sure that your blood pressure's good and your heart rate's good. And, because obviously something can go wrong. But I think the general stress feeling with it is, things get on top of you. And I would say, just try and get people around you that can help you and advise you and take a bit of pressure from you. Quite a big family. 4 children, 11 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren. I know you think I don't look old enough, but I am. But, it's just really having people. There's no one person can sort of start something and get to the top without a bit of help. And I think the best people to help you are either the people you know or the people around you, or listening to programs like this and listening to people like me that are prepared to give out some advice to help you on your way. I mean, look, what we can't do alone, Andrew, we can do together. Maybe that's a good idea.
I think you're right. I mean, Shakespeare who said, if you prick me, do I not bleed? If you tickle me, do I not laugh? We are all basically the same. We all have challenges, albeit they might be different challenges. Now, you've lived life loud, if you like, OBE, tabloids, the lot. Any regrets, or do you reckon, like Nigel Farage seems to, that every headline just fuels the fire for what's next?
Look, my only regret is not thinking big enough and thinking more confident and in the early days and realising what we can achieve by putting ourselves out, going that extra mile. So I would say just probably lack of, you know, giving it large, I suppose, is a better way of putting it these days. You know, we're a lot more powerful than what we think. We can achieve a lot more than what we believe in. But it's just getting that confidence and getting things moving. So, you know, when I first started off, I was very happy to be an apprentice plumber, and that would have done me all my life. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, great job, never be out of work, and in great demand. And then I thought a bit bigger. I thought, you know what, I want to have my own business and have people work for me. Then I thought, I want to have 20 people work for me. Then I started thinking 400, 500, and I got to 500. And I look back now and I should have said to myself, why don't I do this business and employ 5,000 people? And I think if I'd have set out with that plan, I would have got to that. I would have got there. We've got to think bigger in business. We've got to think more drive, more ambition, more willpower. There's a lot of negativity in the world, always has been, unfortunately more so today than ever. And we've got to get through it. We've got to get over it. I mean, you know, I'm going to stick this out there. You know, we've got Starmer, Rayner, Reeves doing everything they can to stop businesses and people succeeding. And they ain't going to stop me. They ain't going to stop We Fix London, my new company. They're not going to stop me. And that's what I think we've got to all have, this attitude that nothing's going to stop us. The only thing that can stop us is bad health. If you've got your health, then you can make it happen.
Yeah, no, all talking about that, as I say. So you built Pimlico Plumbers through basically sheer grit. It was, wasn't it? What was the hardest lesson you'd teach today's entrepreneurs, that they're too soft to handle, and does that toughness translate to politics?
What's the lesson I would try and teach them? Well, look, first of all, you know, you can't teach drive and ambition. You know, you've got it. We've all got it in us. We've just got to make it happen. We have to be realistic, of course. You know, I mean, let's be fair. I mean, I'm not building like a 300-story hotel in Dubai. I'm running a business. It ain't that complicated. You employ the right people. You send them to the job. They do the right job. They collect the money. You've got an happy customer. Let's keep it simple. Just keep your business simple. But in the same token, you know, but you know, give somebody something for their money. Give them, you know, value for money. Give them something that they want to come back to you for. So, drive and ambition, you can't teach anyone, but you can encourage people. Again, I have to say, there's loads of stuff out there now, you know, where people are prepared to give advice. We all learn from someone, Andrew, and it's out there for you to look at it and maximise on it. But the problem is, Andrew, let me simplify this maybe, if I possibly can. I think business is like making a cake. You know, you put a bit of this in, bit of that. So in my one is bit of HR, bit of marketing, bit of employing the right people, bit of like good customer service, just an all-round sort of mixture. And you keep adding bits in, and you know, maybe you got a bit too much of this and not too much of that, and eventually you'll get the right mixture. And when you've got the right mixture, you're unstoppable.
Now, I love the cakes and a few tarts along the way as well. What I love, thank you. What I love, Charlie, is you've always been big on hiring the right people. Ben Habib, he's been on the Andrew Eborn show several times. He tells me that Nigel picks loyalists over talent. How do you spot the real talent at Pimlico? And did you see the same instinct in Reform's team?
Yeah, can we drop the word Pimlico? The company's We Fix now.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about both. So you did the big thing about Pimlico, which you sold. We Fix, which is your new company. I mean, talk to me about that talent and basically, as I say, the comparison, if you like, between what Nigel did and what Ben Habib accuses him of doing, saying he picks loyalists over talent. How do you spot the real deal at now We Fix, Pimlico beforehand? And do you see that same instinct in Reform's team?
Well, I think it's everywhere. I think you could use that same format, whatever you're doing, you know, whether you're picking friends or whether you're running a business or whether you're running a political party. You've got to get the best people that you think are the right people for this job. Different ways of doing it. I mean, politics does not come into when I employ people. Colour, sex, what they call it, racism, all that nonsense, don't come into it. But in the same token, you know, for me, that person needs to be presentable is the first thing. Then they have to have the right qualifications. They have to have the right experience. They have to have the right potential. And they also have to have the right attitude. So, you know, I don't care if somebody comes on to me and they're a Remainer or a Brexiteer. I don't care if they come on to me, they're Labour or they're Reform. I don't care if they come on to me if they're black or white. I don't care if they come on to me if they're male or female. Yes, they have to be one or the other. You know, I'm not into all that nonsense. You know, I'm like Eric the bricklayer, but now I want to be known as Sharon in accounts or something. You know, we stick very much to the old-fashioned rules, the old traditional ways of doing things, and that's it. You come in, and if you stack up, then you've got a good chance of getting a job with us. If you don't stack up, go and work for someone else.
Yeah, and it's really about that, and that's what Trump was sort of saying is, look, are you good at doing the job? Where you should be blind to every other sex, colour, creed, sexual orientation. It's completely irrelevant. Can you do the job? That's the only question. And now you've talked about trades are bleeding skills, government's failing, you've publicly said. What's your fix? We fix your company, you got your tie. And why do you think bureaucrats keep botching it when a guy like you sorted in a heartbeat?
Sorry. Say that again, Andrew.
Yeah, what's your fix? You know, we're talking about governments failing, their bleeding skills and so on and so forth. Bureaucrats, they keep saying botching it. They could get a guy like you who looks at these things. We fix plumbing and other bits and pieces. Could you fix the government?
Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. You know, the first thing you have to do with any business that you get involved with is get rid of the dead wood. As soon as you get rid of the dead wood or the waste of time people, then you start to build it. And, you know, if I was involved with the government now, I could sort out the apprenticeship side of thing immediately. I could sort out youth unemployment. I could sort out how to improve the economy. And all I've got to do is get rid of the first three people. You always get rid of the people at the top if they're not up to standard. Get rid of them three people, get the right people in, and the country will be booming again.
Okay, Charlie's just getting warmed up. We've heard the grit behind his millions and his take on work, but politics is next. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we're digging into Reform UK, Labour's flops, and Charlie's wild COVID stance. You're watching The Pulse today with me, Andrew Eborn.
Not the station for people who label truth as misinformation just because they don't like it.
For facts and truth.
Today's News Talk, The Pulse.
Well, we're back with Charlie Mullins on the Andrew Eborn show. He's gone from pipes to Parliament. Let's see why he's betting on reform to fix Britain. Charlie, you've said anything to get Labour out drove you to reform. What's the one Labour failure right now that's got you raging, and how's Reform crew planning to smash it?
Okay, the one thing about Labour that's got me reforming, that's got me fuming at the moment is everything they do. That's the one thing. Everything.
Everything, okay.
Everything. But look, being on a serious note, the biggest mistake we've made at the moment is Rachel from accounts, as they call her, increasing national insurance. We've got two major things at the moment from a business point of view. Increasing national insurance has probably wiped 25% off the revenue that we'll be getting in from now on. You know, she's trying to gain another 1 or 2%. She's shot herself in the foot, or the country. Revenue for national insurance and tax will go down by at least 25%. I know many people or businesses that are not taking on new staff because of it. They're actually cutting back with people. They're not expanding. They're not taking on apprentices. And you get these, I have to be honest, idiots in Labour government that say, you know, it's only 1 or 2%. It's not only 1 or 2%. It's you know, you've got to pay that money. You've got to pay more tax. You've got to employ more people. Your overall costs have become colossal because of a stupid national insurance increase. I mean, a blind man could see what's going on. I would normally say to someone like the government or Rachel Reeves, you know, you need to get glasses. Well, she needs to get a dog to see what's going on, because she is absolutely clueless. She's destroyed the economy by at least 25%. And, you know, when all the people that disagree with me, and we're all right entitled to our opinions, come on to me and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that at the end of April, May, that I'm wrong, but I won't be wrong. The amount of businesses that are waiting now until the start of the new tax year, 7th, I think it is, of April, before they lay off people or before they even close down. So that's been
it's the 5th of April, the tax year ends, and then the 6th of April, the new one begins. But
6th of April. But when's the new one start? Same day?
Well, 6th of April, so that'll basically be from a personal point of view,
Yeah. But I think the first Monday is the 7th, isn't it?
Oh, right. But absolutely have a look at that sort of stuff. But you're right. It's an important point to the devastating effect. This is what I love having you on the show, is that you talk about the devastating effect on real businesses, successful businessmen like you, and it drove you out of this country. Now, I want to talk about a bit more about reform specifically. I had Catherine Blakelock on the show very recently, the Andrew Eborn show. Phenomenal, sensational interview. She claims that reform was more about Nigel's ego than a real plan. Do you think that's sour grapes from a Brexit Party founder, or does she have a point you'd push back on?
Look, I'm not into all that he said, she said nonsense. You know, everyone's got an opinion. I mean, you know, as I say, I'm not into all that. It's all about, you know, coming up with the goods and are we going to get where we want to get? You know, you've got to put all that to one side. I mean, you've got all this backstabbing that goes on in the Labour Party, Conservative Party. Now it's going on in reform. All they need to do is you know, put all them things to one side. They should get themselves in a room, sort out what they're unhappy about, and then move on, which means either work together or somebody needs to jump ship. You know, I'm not into all that. It's his ego and he wants to be number one. He wants to do this, that, and the other. Evidently, I've had a couple of them there that have been slagging me off. So what? I couldn't care less. We either work together or we don't. You know what I mean? I couldn't care what they say about how I talk or what my hair's like or, you know, all this nonsense. I really ain't interested in that. My main interest is getting Nigel Farage into number 10 and getting reform running the country. That's my interest.
So just on that, and what I always say on this show, we like to be balanced. We like to make sure that all views are represented, because people always underestimate in the media the audience, and the audience are incredibly intelligent. If you present the facts, they can make their own decisions. But one of the accusations about Nigel was that it's all about ego. It's not about reform. So you say your mission is to get Nigel elected as PM, but also reform in power. If you lost Nigel, would you still want to have reform in power?
Undoubtedly. I mean, look, two reasons really. One is we don't have anyone else, and the other thing is, you know, a lot of their policies are exactly what we want. The country needs change. Conservatives and Labour have been in there forever. It's been a two-horse race. It's now a three-horse race. Reform are out in front. Reform are the favourites. So, you know, a little bit of in-house fighting. It's neither here nor there. You know, I mean, this chairman they've got now and Rupert Lowe, I respect both of them, but why don't they just go in a room, have a few words, maybe give each other a slap, and then get on with it?
Yeah, I think the giving each other a slap might have led to some sort of criminal things. We won't go there. Allegedly.
What I'm trying to say is, you know, you got one of them's belly aching that he threatened him verbally.
Yes.
I mean, we're grown-up men. Go in the room, sort it out.
Yeah.
If you can't agree on it, then one of you go.
It's great. It's great advice. And Rupert very publicly has said, sit down for a dinner with Nigel. He's invited him. Not sure who will pick up the bill. Maybe they will. Is that what you did encourage them to do?
Well, of course. I mean, keep it behind closed doors. It's like, you know, you have a row in your own domestic house with your wife or girlfriend or both of them sometimes. You know, you don't put that out there and let everybody talk about it. You sort it out. You either get together or you move on. And that's what they need to do now. I mean, it's a silly little disagreement over who wants this and who agrees on that. I mean, they're all great people. You know, they're great people. You've got Rupert Lowe, brilliant MP. You've got Nigel Farage, a brilliant leader. You've got, I can't think of the guy who was chairman, or something, a brilliant businessman. You know, you've got brilliant supporters behind him. You've got normal people that really want to get reform moving. You've got loads of business people, Nick Candy, loads of them are in there, want to put their money in. So we have a great sort of ingredients. Let's make the cake. Let's make a great cake and get things moving.
Yeah, no, and absolutely sound advice. Now, I always say that the whole purpose of this show, we shine more light and less heat, and sunlight is the best disinfectant. And talking of which, I mean, last time we spoke, and there was a big heated discussion about COVID, and you obviously made waves with your no jab, no job stance at Pimlico, tough love or overreach. How does that square with Reform's freedom first vibe, and did it shape your political jump?
It made no difference whatsoever of what political party that I now support. 5 years ago, when COVID came out, the world was in a mess. We was being guided and led by scientists, experts, government, all the busybodies in the world was telling us the best way to go around us. And their suggestion at the time was that, you know, we should all have this jab. And I went along with that, like many people. I didn't force anybody to have the jab, and I never sacked anybody for not having the jab. What I came out with in, I think it was in 2021, I said in 2021, probably in January or something, I said that as from September, end of September 2021, I will not be employing anybody that's not been jabbed. It's been taken out of proportion. For 5 years, people have been belly aching on going on about it. It's long gone. They keep accusing me of making people have the jab and people have been ill. They keep accusing me of I sack people. They keep accusing me that, you know, I was threatening people, you've got to have the jab. Load of nonsense. That's what I came out with. Everybody had a choice. At the time, a lot of people did have the jab, like myself, because we was led to believe that's the best thing to do. And you know, I was doing it on the basis of my customer safety and my staff safety. There was nobody better geared up on the safety aspects to deal with COVID than what my previous company was. We had testing machines in, we had all the markings and where you can sit, who you can talk to, who you can do. You could not come in their building without being tested. We had engineers, we gave them all the test kits so that when they turn up on somebody's doorstep, the customer had a choice. Would you like the engineer to do a test before he comes in? Bearing in mind he'd already done that at previous jobs that day, and many of them would say, yes, we would prefer that. And they was even asking, can you send me an engineer that's been jabbed? So I've done nothing wrong. I followed the system. Lots of things have changed now. We're still a little bit all over the place, but, you know, I still lost friends and family that through COVID. So, and I've got all these busybodies telling us it was never there, it's made up, it's this. Well, you know, tell that to the people that lost a lot of people. Tell that to the people that are still suffering now from COVID. So, you know, I stick by what I said. That was the best information we had. The world.
You basically relied on the experts, and putting it bluntly, your customers wanted that safety. It wasn't just the security to make sure they'd done it. It was that extra blanket. Otherwise, you would have lost business. So the simple question then, Charlie, would you do the same again?
I knew you was going to ask me that. Would I do the same again? Well, look, I would follow the guidelines again. I would follow the guidelines, but I think what you're saying is there's that much uncertainty about it now. Look, I'd have to relook at the situation. I think I couldn't just say I would do the same again. I think we would have to be led again by the government, by the scientists, by the so-called experts. We'd have to be led again by that, and you know, and then go from there. But I didn't do anything other than say this is what we're going to do, and you know, we didn't even bring it into, you know, we didn't comply with it because at the end of September 2021, all of a sudden COVID disappeared. So I never even implemented it. But, you know, I would just have to look at the situation again. I mean, yes, it looks like we feel it would be not the best move to make these days, but maybe we'll have better information now. I mean, you've got to remember, Andrew, the world was in a mess. Nobody knew what to do. But I never held a gun that anybody said they had a choice. And a lot of people appreciated that they could come into the workplace, and many members of staff had had the jab, and they felt comfortable that they're not going to take this virus home and give it to their children or elderly people. But we all had a choice. We had a choice. I mean, I had members of my family that worked for me And my daughter was actually, she's got 4 children and a husband, and they all work for me, not the kids, of course. And she said, look, we're not having that jab. We're not going down that road. I said, Alice, you've got to do whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you what you can and can't do. Would have I sacked people that didn't have it? The answer is no, I would not have sacked them, but I would have isolated them into an area that you know, would make other people safe. They would have gone into a working area that people have not had the COVID jab and worked together. Would have I sent them out to customers? The answer is no.
Okay, very clear. Thank you for that, Charlie, for the clarification, and people will form their own opinion on that. I want to talk about Brexit, because you were famously anti-Brexit, but you've now joined up with a pro-Brexit party, which Nigel helped build. What flipped the switch? Did Nigel sell you on it, or was it something bigger about Britain's direction?
Okay, well, look, Brexit has been and gone. Again, we're talking about something that's 7 years old. You know, we lost, you know, I'm still a strong Remainer. I believe we are no better off by leaving the EU. That's what I believe. I've got no evidence whatsoever that we're better off. I actually got more evidence that we're worse off. Materials have gone up. There's a much more bigger shortage on it. Labour, bringing in skilled labour, has become a real problem. People won't come over here now. So I believe the economy has suffered massively by coming out of the EU. But everyone's got a different opinion. And you know, look, if it weren't for Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson telling lies, I'm talking about Johnson telling lies, not Nigel, then we'd probably still be in the EU now. They sold a lot of people down the river, or Boris did with the bus thing, you know, 350 grand a week into the NHS. I mean, you know, that was a winning vote, wasn't it? But you know, the long and short of it's been and gone. It's a bit like a football team. You know, I might support Arsenal, you support Tottenham. We can still talk. We still get together. We can still have a disagreement. But you know, people are saying to me, "How comes Charlie, like, you know, you jumped in bed with you know, the biggest man that made Brexit happen?" Well, yes, that's the case, but we can't go around holding grudges about it. What we have to do now is work together and try and make the best of what we've got. And maybe it will work for us. I mean, let's be fair. It's only been 7 years that nothing's happened. So, you know, maybe we'll go a few more years, then the penny will drop and we'll go back in.
Yeah, no, interesting stuff. And so you're flexible is the short answer. We have a look. It's a negotiating tool. You broke on the Andrew Eborn show. It was worldwide news, the worldwide exclusive, that Nigel phoned you. He tapped you personally to run as a candidate. Ben Habib told me in his recent interview on the Andrew Eborn show that Nigel is messianic. He's basically a control freak. What sealed the deal for you? And does that Messiah tag worry you?
What sealed the deal for me to go with reform? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, effectively, but also in response to Ben Habib's suggestion that Nigel's all about Nigel and he's just the Messiah.
Yeah, look, honestly, I'm not. I don't listen to that. What do you call it? Rubbish. You know, I'm just. You know, I'm not into he said, she said. I use my own judgment. I've met Nigel Farage many times. I think he's the best politician we've got out there. I think he's the only one that's prepared to stand up and say what he thinks. You know, he's not in the system. He's not the like old school type brigade or the handshake lot. He's his own man, and you know, he says he'll make changes, and I believe he'll make changes. You know what Ben says, and you know, it's all like, you know, it's all irrelevant, isn't it? You know, you know, it's like someone coming on saying, "I don't like Charlie Mullins. He does this. So what?" You know what I mean? But. Do I run a good business that we fix? Yes. Are we the best? Yes. So all that other side of it is neither here nor there. I actually think there's no better man in the UK that could turn around the country and get it back on the feet. We need a Donald Trump. And I think Nigel Farage It's the nearest thing we got to Donald Trump.
Donald, he's the UK's Donald Trump, is what you're saying. And I think it's so important because I said to each of the people who've been on this show and basically dishing the dirt, if you like, on Nigel, I said it's always important that we put balance, which is why it's so good to have your insight. Martin J has knew Nigel for many, many years. He talked about sex, lies and treachery on the Andrew Eborn show. Is that hype or real dirt? And what did you see behind the curtain when Nigel brought you in?
What did I see? What did you say?
What did you see behind the curtain with Nigel? Because I say Martin J talked about sex, lies and treachery. That was his impression of Nigel. What did you see? What do you think of the man? Well,
I just said I think he's red hot. I think he's razor sharp. I think he'll come up with the goods. People. You know, if Nigel Farage wasn't running reform, I think the membership would go down by 50%. There's a lot of businesses supporting him. I don't agree with everything he says. Of course I don't. But, you know, we're not into silly, like, little, you know, it's not school playground stuff. You know, we've got a serious job ahead of us. We've got 4 years to get the worst government out in history. We've got 4 years to do that. And we need all the right people, all the people that are gone against Labour and Conservatives and not prepared to put up with them. And up to now, Reform say they're going to make the changes. And I believe if they do get in, we will get back to being Great Britain again, rather than, you know, something old that we are now. Yeah. So,
and I think that I love the idea, the sentiment in America, make America great again. We should have the Make Britain Great Again, work on that sort of base, put the great back into Britain. You mentioned Rupert Lowe and your very personal views of him. You think he's a great person and potentially a great leader. Obviously, his suspension is still raw. The leaked WhatsApp messages from Nigel apparently call him disgusting. Catherine Blakelock says it's all Nigel's show now. Can Nigel hold Reform together, or is he the chaos factor?
Of course he can hold him together. Blimey. Of course he can. You know, again, it's he said, she said. Let them come out with the decision of what they're unhappy about. Let the people move on that don't want to work together. I mean, evidently, I think it's a verbal threat, and it is, you know, one guy said to the other geezer, you know, I'll give you a slap or something. You know, all right, not quite them words, but, you know, Rupert Lowe don't look like the man that's going to go around beating up people, does he? You know, it's been a verbal threat. They talk about a bit of bullying going on in Rupert Lowe's office. Nothing to do with Rupert Lowe. You've got some other busybodies making themselves busy.
Yeah, alleged bullying.
Yeah, so alleged bullying. So all I'm saying, nothing's proven. And if and when it is proven, what are they talking about? That Rupert Lowe said to the other guy, you know, you slit the party's throat, or something about slitting someone's throat. But let's be fair, it ain't going to happen. It's not, you know, it's not a serious threat. It's really like saying to somebody, you know, I don't like you, I'm going to punch you on the nose. What does it matter?
Should it have been referred to the police?
Should it have been referred to the police? No. It's behind closed doors. Sit round the table and sort yourselves out, and then you either stay at the table and work together, or someone who's unhappy, get up and go. You know what I mean? You cannot go into disruption over a two-bob argument. You know what I mean? It's literally like, you know, it's a two-bob razz. It's school playground stuff. You know, a kid goes home and says to his mum, "Oh, Jimmy's going to like kick the out of me." And you know, what's she going to do? Take him out of the school, or go up to the school and say, "Can we get this sorted out?" If someone was offended by a little bit of talk, then sort it out. You know, I mean, it's not a big issue. They're turning it into a big issue, and I'll tell you who's turning it into a big issue, which is obvious: Labour and Conservatives. You know, they're making a big deal out of it. I mean, you know, there's been, unfortunately, MPs killed and you know, bad things have happened to MPs, and they're making more of a little two-bob threat than what they are about, you know, protecting people correctly. You know, I honestly don't think it's a big issue. If they can't sort it out, it's best that someone moves on.
Yeah. No, it was P.T. Barnum, a great showman, who always used to say, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. And that the media love a good fight, don't they? It sort of populates, they burst a blood vessel when that's happening. But Nigel's still topping the polls despite this mess. Does it prove he's untouchable, or is reform just riding voter anger, not Nigel's charisma?
Well, I keep saying it's a two-bob argument taken out of proportion. You know, and that's all it is. You know, a couple of people have left reform and, you know, they're belly aching about them. They start knocking them, which that's what people do. You know, if I left reform tomorrow or they kick me out for whatever reason, I ain't going to be knocking them. You know, good luck with you. You know, you can win the election without me. I'm not the big key player. My part to want to be with reform is to join them to get onto the apprentice side of thing and getting youngsters into work. That's my role. If not if, but when they win the election, if they think I'm the man for the job, then that's what I would love to do. Help to get you.
And you're very eloquent on the supporting apprenticeship, and every time you've been on the Andrew Eborn show, we've spoken about that, which is great. Now, reform's got 30%, according to the latest news, of 16 to 17-year-olds in the polls. Teachers' unions, however, say they want to educate these people, these youngsters, against you, calling it racist. How do you win over kids when the system's stacked against you?
Okay, look, the most important thing with kids is getting them a job. Get them a job, their attitude will change, their life will change, they become part of society, they won't have this big chip on their shoulder that's being created out there. So it's a simple solution, just get them a job, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, you've got all the stabbings going on, you've got all the muggings going on, you've got everything going on, and unfortunately, every time you know, the youngster goes to court, and what does he say? I'm bored, I don't have a job, like all my mates. Get the youngsters into work, resolves youth unemployment, skill shortage, crime on the streets, rehabilitation, and it helps the economy. So it's a no-brainer. I mean, I've been talking to Cameron when Cameron was in government, and they used to invite me along there. This lot don't invite me at work. They don't want to invite me along, so I won't go in here. But, you know, and I used to talk to Cameron about, you know, apprenticeships and the value of it. Yeah. And we were so close to making it happen. You know, we need to do a government-funded apprenticeship scheme. Stop giving people or youngsters money to sit at home and Netflix and porn and all that, whatever they're watching. And, you know, give that job benefit money. Give it to an employer who can then make it a job allowance. He then puts the same amount of money as what the government are giving them to do nothing. All of a sudden, you'll get thousands of apprenticeships. Youngsters want to get a job because the pay is proper rather than being, you know, slave.
And it gives people a sense of purpose. I've spoken to lots of people on this show about that sort of side. We do phone-ins, as you know, appear on more platforms than Paddington. And people phone in and say that they really want to work. It's not just about the money, but giving them a sense of purpose in life. Now, the headline, however, going back to this sort of side, the headline with Rupert Lowe is still sort of all about that sort of, and various people coming out and saying that the party's tearing itself apart. How do you rebuild trust when the party's big dogs are at each other's throats?
Okay, I think it's simple again. Sort the problem out is the first thing, and then move on. You know, they need to sort the problem out, and it's escalated. I mean, personally, you know, they need to get in a room, you know, and sort it out. It's as simple as that, really. I mean, you know, maybe even have a straightener with each other, have a little row. You know, you've seen men, right? They go in a room or they go outside, they have a little fight, they kick out of each other, and then they're shaking each other's hand. You know, I'm not suggesting that, you know, because I think the odds are stacked against it. You know, Rupert's about 67 and the other guy's whatever. And, you know, maybe it's an unfair match, but they need to sort it. They need to sort it one way or the other. And they're both grown men, they're both intelligent men, and I honestly think they're both drinking from the same teapot. They want reform to get to the front. If it's about ego, if it's about he said, she said, then you know, I don't want to get involved in all that nonsense.
Yeah, and you've been very, very clear on that. I mean, what this does show with all these people coming out is that Nigel's a bit of a divisive kingpin, if you like. What's the biggest lie in British politics that you'd call out? And does Nigel dodge it or face it head on?
The biggest lie in politics?
Yes.
Okay, well, the biggest lie is obviously Starmer. You know, this rubbish that he comes out with. You know, we're going to smash the gangs. We're going to, you know, we're going to help people. We're not going to take money off of working class people. So the biggest lie in politics is Starmer. I mean, you know, the damage that man has done. I mean, it's lucky it's not wartime because he wouldn't be alive, would he? You know, he's an enemy. He's the enemy. You know, he's doing everything he can to destroy Great Britain, and unfortunately, he's 50% there.
And do you think Nigel shifted on some of the promises that he's made? I mean, that's the accusation.
What is it? What?
Well, he's talking about mass deportation, talking about stopping the boats and so on and so forth. Various policies that people have highlighted. Has he shifted his position on that?
Well, I don't know. He ain't done nothing at the moment because it's only talk, isn't it? You know what I mean? He might have said, "Oh, I'm not stopping the boats." Then he says, "I am stopping them." You know, it's talk, isn't it? He ain't done nothing wrong. It's just changing tactics all the time. And you've got to remember, you know, you've got that many busybodies and pests out there that, you know, you can't say anything. They just escalate on it. Yeah. You know, I've had the discussion about the boats. I could stop the boats in 1 week. 1 week. Simple. Get the Navy in the sea to do the job that we employ them for.
There you go. Charlie, it's been brilliant as always. Time has flown by. Thank you so much for being my guest on the Andrew Eborn Show. I'll be back with everybody else. Same time, same place tomorrow.
Andrew,
don't touch that dial.